Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the Build a Better Brain podcast. The podcast where every episode you get to learn a new exciting way to build a better brain. Today's episode, the number one enemy to achieving your dreams. Alright, so today I'd like to talk to you about what I think is the number one enemy to people achieving their dreams. Now that sounds pretty lofty, but I honestly think this is a really significant reason why people don't pursue the things that would make them really happy in life. So if you can eliminate this one thing from your life, then I think you will be much happier and much more likely to pursue the things that make you happy on a consistent basis, and you'll have a much more successful life, whatever that looks like to you. So I want to demonstrate this by telling you a little story that I remember from my teenage years. As long as I can remember, I've always had a fascination with music. In particular, I always thought it would be really cool to be the singer of a band. The problem is, I never thought that I could do it. To be honest, I still have never really tried it other than a few karaoke adventures here and there. But the reason I bring it up is to tell you a story about a moment of clarity I had when I was a teenager. And I thought, I've always wanted to be a singer. I don't really know how to go about doing that. So, who do I know that could help me out with this thing? Which I think was actually a really enlightened thought at the time. So I thought back to a woman who was a really lovely woman who ran our church choir at the time. And in my world, at that time, she was the most expert person I could think of on the topic of singing. So I gathered up courage and I sent her an email and I asked her, how do you get better at singing? How would I go about getting better at singing? And I still remember her reply to this day. I think about it often, actually. She said, well, what you want to do is you want to pick one song and keep practicing it over and over and over and over. Work on every single part of the song until you have it perfect. So basically, she was saying, pick a song that you really enjoy, that you'd like to be able to sing, and then keep listening to it and keep practicing singing it until you can sing the whole song exactly like that person that you're listening to. And now that I'm a bit older and a little wiser, I think that was actually amazing advice. And I think if I actually would have followed that advice, I could have become an amazing singer. But here's the problem. At that time, I was under the delusion that I believe about at least 50% of people are, and I was for most of my life. The delusion was that people are either born talented or gifted, or they're not, with all sorts of different things. In this case, I thought that talented singers were born talented singers. And the reason I thought that was because nobody ever told me different. And a lot of media, TV shows, movies, a lot of the stories we read or we watch, they kind of play this idea up that we're born a hero, we're born special. And we all like to think this. So the movies that we like to see are about someone realizing that they were special and a hero all along. But in reality, most special people, most heroes, aren't just born with their talent. There's a deeper story behind their success. So when I got this advice, I remember being, instead of excited and thankful for the advice and, putting it into action and testing the results like I could have done, instead I got depressed. That's right, I got depressed. Why did I get depressed? Because I think that somewhere deep down I wanted her to say, hey, if you're talented, you'll know it. And I wanted to know it. The fantasy we all have is that somebody's going to come down, float down off of a cloud, reach their hand down to us and say, you're special, you're the one, you're the savior, you're the only person who can be this special, and the rest of the world is aching to enjoy your gift. That might be true. Most of us do have a special talent or a gift that we really should be sharing with the world, but it doesn't really happen like that. It doesn't just appear. Sure, some people are probably born with biological tendencies that might make them better at singing or anything else really. But I'd like to challenge you today to look for the deeper story. Because every single time I've dug a little deeper into the stories of the people that I think are really successful, my heroes, I always expect to hear that same triumphant, unique, talented, gifted story of discovering that they were a hero from birth. But the crazy part is that has never happened. I've never found a single successful person that I looked up to that actually had a story where they were untalented and didn't know that they had any gift, and then suddenly became talented and everyone recognized them like it happens in the movies. It's just never happened. It's a fantasy. And it holds all of us back because we think, well, if nobody's stepping in and telling me that I'm a hero, that I need to save everybody with my magical gift, then we don't know where to look for it. That's the only way we've ever been taught to discover that we're talented, is for this special magical gift to appear. But it doesn't happen that way. Anybody that you think is naturally talented at anything, I dare you to go ask them about their story. Now, at first, I think we have a tendency to believe that we are a hero and that we're special. So they might actually tell you some version of that story. For example, if you know somebody who's an amazing singer, ask them, have you always been an amazing singer? And they might say, yeah, I have. Or, yeah, I've been amazing at singing since I was 5. Well, there's a clue right there. They've been singing since they were 5. I hadn't started even trying to sing even a little bit until I was in my teenage years. If I had started when I was 5, I probably could have ironed out a lot of things. Every single successful person, famous people, non-famous people, somebody in your life who you think is just really, really good at something, doesn't matter what it is either. Anywhere from practical skills like carpentry or business skills to things that seem like innate characteristics, like kindness, charity. Those all came from somewhere. Even really famous people who are famous for being geniuses or gifted, either musicians, scientists. Albert Einstein, he's a great example of somebody that people look up to as a genius, like he was just born that way. But in fact, he spent most of his life in a scientific community. He had mentors, he had teachers, and he was working on his theories for years. Same thing with Stephen Hawking. He had mentors that he was looking up to. Every single scientist throughout history was working from the previous work of other scientists, and many of them were like apprentices in a workshop. Leonardo, a talented artist and scientist in his own right, he was an apprentice to another famous artist of the time. That's another story that you'll uncover when you start asking people, is mentorship. Athletes that are hailed as gifted spend most of their life practicing the sport that they're good at. It doesn't mean that everybody who practices something is going to be a legendary talent, but it does mean that anybody has the capacity to at least get better at that skill. And some of them have a magical combination of luck, natural ability, practice, application, mentorship. All of those things line up and they can reach a superstar status. So I would highly recommend that you abolish this belief that people are either talented or not talented, that it's some divinely inspired gift. Just get rid of that belief because it's holding you back. Because you're not going to start working and doing the things that you need to do to go towards your dreams until you get rid of the crutch that nobody has come down from the heavens and granted you the knowledge that you're special and unique and you need to share your gift. You have to build your gift. Everybody who has a talent and a gift has built it somehow. Either they were instructed by somebody who was already better at them about this thing. They had coaches, mentors, maybe parents, or they just practiced a long time and tried and failed so many times. When you're digging deeper into the stories of people that you idolize or that you look up to or you want to be like, pay attention. Look for mentors. Look for failures. Look for what they were doing before the thing that made them famous. They were probably working on something very similar. They were probably trying things that didn't work out so well, but we forget about those parts of the story. We skip right to the success. So that's my challenge to you this week, is to start looking deeper into the story of the people that you really look up to and realize that they went through a process and there's nothing different about them and you. If you go through the exact same process they went through, or even something similar to it, you're very likely to get almost the exact same results, or at least very similar results, or at least an improvement in that area of your life from where you are right now. Because if they're better than you at something, and you strive to do exactly what they did, you're automatically going to get better at that area of your life. So stop waiting to be told that you're special and unique, and then eventually, after you've put in the work and failed enough times, you'll have a success. And then the funny part is, people will think that you were always like that you were always talented, that you were always gifted, and that you were always successful. And it'll be your inside little joke. I'd love to hear your stories about looking for the deeper story behind the people that you look up to. and how it has impacted your life. So if you have a moment, go to our page on iTunes, look up the Build a Better Brain podcast, and leave the results that you got in the reviews for the podcast. Or go to our blog at buildabetterbrainpodcast.com and leave a comment there. Or you can look us up on Facebook at Build a Better Brain. Until next time, this has been Brad Osborne, encouraging you to go out and build a better brain.